Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So there's been a lot of talk lately over the past basically 5 or 6 years or so saying that Republicans and Donald Trump, evil orange blumph, lost Republicans the suburbs, especially suburban women, and they say that it's all because of him and he's dooming Republicans in these places, which is ironic because we have this new poll that came out the other day from very accurate pollster, very accurate in 2016 and 2020 big data polling, which shows that Trump is doing 13 points better among suburban voters for 2024 than he did ahead of the 2020 election, which is very interesting. And it kind of debunks the narrative a little bit about some of these suburbs saying all these voters are gone. And by the way, the suburbs have changed, and we're going to talk about why in this video, but this notion that Trump is cancerous for the suburbs and he's not going to be able to win any voters back, and we got to get rid of him for like a Ron DeSantis because he's more eluctable. Otherwise, Republicans are not going to be able to win elections ever again. It's total and complete nonsense. It's a lie. It needs to stop. And I'm going to get into why in this video, but first I have to tell you guys about our sponsor over at Get Angel Rich. So 627K startups open up each year, many of which need to be backed by investors, which is a perfect opportunity to grow your own personal wealth while supporting entrepreneurs. TV star and entrepreneur Damon John and his Angel Network make being an investor easy. You get exclusive access to 2 pre-qualified deals every month. You can invest with as little as $50. Imagine how much your life could change if you make that right investment. So if you're looking to get your feet wet with investing, you'll love working with Damon and his Angels and Entrepreneurs Network. Watch the free video on how you can invest in the next big startup by going to getangelrich.com or visiting the link in the description or pinned comment. Now, if you want to invest in my channel, speaking of investing, you can do so by visiting redeaglepolitics.com. I'll be putting a video out, an exclusive video just on the website within the next couple of days or so. You get exclusive access to all my full-length videos, of which there are many. You get access to the Discord community and all of the articles as well. So make sure you sign up at redeaglepolitics.com. The link is in the description, but we got to talk about these polls because this is impressive. Republicans making massive gains in the suburbs. You saw what happened in Virginia. You saw what happened in New Jersey, where Republicans did very well in the suburbs. And people are saying that these suburbs are gone forever. Is that entirely the case? Well, not necessarily. And we'll look into why. We'll talk about the history of the suburbs, very brief history lesson here. So looking at this map right here, you could see this is the 2004 to 2008 shift map. Not a trend map, but a shift map. And you saw throughout most of the country, except the rural parts of the country, you saw a massive turn to the left. Obviously, this is true. The national environment moved left by roughly around 10 points or so. But in a lot of these suburban places, like you see in suburban Dallas, you look at all the counties surrounding DFW, some of them actually moved to the right, but DFW, Houston, you saw massive shifts in Gwinnett and Georgia and a lot of the Atlanta suburbs. So this shift was happening when you put up weak milquetoast, I guess you could say Rhino McCain. And you see the same thing in some of the Indianapolis suburbs. You saw the same thing in a lot of the Midwestern suburbs and the rural Midwest as well. But keep in mind that there were no suburbs where McCain did better in than Bush, even when you adjust for like the massive shift of the 10-point national environment. The suburbs mainly trended left. It was the rural areas that trended to the right. Mainly you could thank Sarah Palin being on the ticket for helping the rural areas get a little bit energized. But furthermore, the shift has been happening for years. Bush in 2004, when you adjust for trends, underperformed Reagan in the suburbs. And you saw this trend continue. Now, Romney was supposedly the best choice for the suburbs. They will say Romney was this, Bush character. And even nowadays, people are saying, well, Romney did well in the suburbs. We need to find a Trump-like character that can get Romney margins in the suburbs. Well, if you look at some of these places like Dallas and Collin County, Texas, even I think it was Dallas County actually moved to the left in Texas, and Collin County didn't move much to the right either. And then you look at places like Georgia. Look at the suburbs of Georgia. Yeah, Cobb County moved a little bit back to the right, obviously, but a lot of the other suburbs in Georgia continued to move to the left, mainly because they're changing. Demographics are changing. The culture in some of these places has changed a little bit, and Democrats are focusing their energy more and more on this suburban elitist demographic. And we see this here. And even though Romney himself was an elitist, even he couldn't keep up. And we saw this. Obviously, New York suburbs, you could attribute that shift to the left more to Hurricane Sandy necessarily than you could attribute it to Mitt Romney's underperformance or things like demographic shifts there. But that's the exception to the rule. I mean, even if you look at like Northern Virginia and how these places shifted, like Prince William County shifted to the left, and the counties that shifted to the right did so very narrowly. They trended to the left in many places from 2008 to 2012. And then you look forward to 2016. Maybe Trump accelerated the shift in some of these places. Maybe he did. I mean, maybe he did. His personality did turn off a few extra voters in a place like Kent County, Michigan, or even like Maricopa County or some of the Dallas or Houston suburbs. But keep in mind, a lot of that shift really has not that much to do with Donald Trump necessarily himself or his personality, because if you ran Mitt Romney or John McCain in 2016 in Arizona, Mitt Romney wasn't going to win it by 9 again. Demographics have shifted since then. Even though Hillary was a weaker candidate, we understand that, than Obama, I still think that Romney probably would have won Arizona. He wouldn't have won it by 9 again. He could have won it by like 7. Maybe he would have, outperformed Trump in Arizona, but it wouldn't have necessarily been by as much as before. You could say at most that Trump accelerated the trends, but Romney's not going to accelerate the rural trends nearly as much as Trump did. Is Romney going to see some of these counties in rural Iowa go from being 50-50 or voting blue in 2012 or 2008 to voting like 70% Republican? And the fact that you have a lot of these counties in rural Iowa and Wisconsin that by the end of this decade are probably going to be voting like the Deep South if you run solid candidates. Yeah, I couldn't see Romney doing that. That was Trump, and we understand that. And it's also important to take a look at 2020 as well in terms of the presidential results that we see here and in terms of the suburban shift, because a lot of suburbs in 2020 continued to shift to the left. And we saw this. I mean, you see it in the Midwest, and you also saw it in, obviously, suburban Georgia. You saw it in Texas. You saw it in Arizona, Colorado, Virginia, etc. And also, that's mainly, again, global pandemic. A lot of these people, a lot of the suburban voters are very susceptible, especially suburban women, to media framing and media bias. And we saw that tenfold. You saw it happen. But there's a breaking point, and you just can't cover for your boy anymore past a certain point, because these issues matter. Just like they were mad at the Bush administration because of the economy in turmoil in 2008, that shift in, between 2004 and 08, even when adjusting for trends, was even more than the shift from 2016 to 2020 when adjusting for trends, or 2012 to 2016 in many cases. So that's really important, and a lot of these issues matter. Suburban mothers pandering and trying to outwoke the left on the BLM issue, like you could even argue Republicans in some places tried to do in 2020, that doesn't help. But if you're going to actually say, I don't want your kids being indoctrinated into this ridiculous Marxist ideology, anti-white Marxist critical race theory, then maybe you're going to get some voters in the process. If you speak up a little bit louder about the fact that single-family zoning is being reduced, then maybe as a result, you're going to see more gains in the process. So there's many factors that play into this, but like I said, all suburbs are not created equal, which does pose the question, will all suburbs shift back? No, I think that regardless, even if Trump wins the popular vote, Collin County might continue to shift left in Texas, although maybe Republicans could turn a corner in a place like Tarrant County, for example, because demographic shifts and educational trends do exist, and they're going to be very difficult to beat, although you can slow them down for sure. And you could see Democrats potentially reach a breaking point with college-educated white males. Maybe they don't reach that breaking point with college-educated white females yet, but sub-demographics do matter as well. And I potentially could see some counties in suburban Georgia continue to shift to the left, although maybe you might see rural Georgia get maxed out even further for Republicans, or maybe you might see a rebound in exurban Atlanta if Biden's unpopularity is still reigning supreme and his approval ratings in the 30s and Trump is the nominee in 2024 and effectively runs a good campaign and attacks him on the issues that matter. Yeah, Georgia could flip Republican again, obviously, but these trends do exist. But like I said, it's also important to note that not all suburbs are created equal. Talking about the exurbs, Macomb County, Michigan is very different than Oakland County, Michigan. You see the counties in suburban Cincinnati, though a lot of those counties got redder in 2016. And this is important to take into consideration. Maybe not all of them, but Butler County moved right. Clermont County moved right. Some of these counties south of Indianapolis moved right, even though you saw Hamilton County move to the left. I mean, Midwestern suburban counties and even some of the suburban counties in the South that are more exurban, that have a more blue-collar population, they do exist. And those are the counties that Republicans are going to be more likely to succeed in, the counties surrounding Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh metro area. Obviously, Trump did very well in Staten Island compared to past Republicans. He did better on Long Island as well. So definitely it's a regional thing. Obviously, like I said, it's a regional thing. It's a cultural thing. It's an educational thing. And all of these factors play a role. But the suburbs are not necessarily this black and white, like either you win them and you just cave in on every issue or you don't. And even so, that doesn't even work. I mean, Republicans that stand their ground on some issues but effectively communicate a message that's popular, that's well liked by the suburban population, they will do better in. But even so, there is a breaking point. And it's important that Republicans don't focus all their energy on trying to win back the suburbs either. Obviously, the message should help everyone, but Republicans have to cater to their base first and foremost. If you look at a place like Wisconsin, let's go to 2020 actually. We'll look at the county map in Wisconsin in 2020. I mean, there is a lot of these counties that are like 95% white, blue-collar, rural counties, and you're not even cracking 60% in them. You should be doing Deep South numbers. If your messaging is effective, you should be. And you look at places like Ohio as well. I mean, you're starting to see that in Ohio, and Ohio is pretty much safe Republican by now. Michigan, there's a lot of work to do in these smaller metros. You got to win the smaller metros. You got to do better in a place like Battle Creek, better in a place like Jackson. You could probably do better in like some of the suburbs around Lansing, and then Macomb County, Michigan is a big one. Like all of these things can be done and accomplished. But do not cave on the issues, because you're not going to win the suburbs back that way. And if you put up like a Romney type, or you put up one of these neocons, they're not going to even get Romney 2012 numbers in a lot of these suburbs. I mean, they might get Trump 2016 numbers, but even then, that's like their ceiling, because these places are changing. Although they may do worse in like Macomb County, and it's possible that Republicans could be doing better in some of the suburbs, depending on the demography of the suburb. And that's important to note as well moving forward, because like I said, this country's changing, the suburbs are changing, and it's important to note those changes while we strategize electorally so we're going to succeed. But I'm just sick and tired of the notion we have to cave. How did caving work in 2018? A lot of these people were contrasting themselves, running away from Trump, cowering. Barbara Comstock in Virginia's 10th, how'd that work out for her? Oh, wait, she lost by like 13 points. I mean, it's insane what happens. And yeah, obviously, she wouldn't have won if she tied herself to Trump. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that these weak candidates, these rhinos, oh, they're going to win back the suburbs regardless. Yeah, how did that work out for Mike Kaufman? He got all the money in the world. He couldn't even get within 10 in suburban Denver. I mean, you look at all of these districts that Republicans lost throughout the country. Take everything into consideration. The elected bros, the electability fools are usually misguided, if not controlled opposition. And it's important to understand how politics works when we go to vote, so we can get the best people in there that we possibly can. Otherwise, we're not going to save this country. So that's the bottom line. But in terms of the suburbs, it seems as if Trump has the opportunity to do better in them than he did in 2020. It has more to do with Biden than anything else. Are some suburbs going to be gone for good? Yes, but not all of them. And Trump could do better in the suburbs overall. It's not like the car is being driven off the cliff at 90 miles per hour and it's all Trump's fault and there's no way to stop it. And there's no proof that Trump is going to do far worse in the suburbs than any other Republican. And there's no proof that other Republicans are going to be able to outperform Trump in the rural areas. People will say, well, look at Youngkin, but that's an off-year election. I mean, you can't necessarily go off of that. We're talking presidential year here. That's what we're talking about, presidential year, because that's all that matters when we're talking about Trump versus somebody else. But beyond that point, guys, It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but this is good news ahead of the midterms in 2024. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Please like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle out.